Hey guys, when we got home from our big trip this summer, everybody wanted to know what was our favorite thing about Alaska. And it's really hard to say what the most favorite thing was because we loved really every place we went. But we made a little list, 7 places, must see, must do things if you go to Alaska. I think the first place that we would list is the town of Eagle. It was really the first thing we did when we came across the top of the World Highway into Alaska. Part of the adventure of Eagle was the 65-mile dirt road getting there that is narrow, sharp turns. Trucks can't access the town anymore, so everything comes in by plane. And the town, I want to say there were 88 people. No, that's not right. You can get rid of that.
No,
okay.
That's wrong.
Okay, there's about 88 residents in the town. It has a quirky little library where you can just go and help yourself to a book and go home. There's no checking them in or checking them out. Everybody was super friendly. Everyone in that little town was self-sufficient. If something needed to be done, they could do it, or they could get somebody else in town to do it for them. And while it was remote, it was very friendly, very kind. People wanted to share their stories with us, and it was just a beautiful, quiet place. I think we decided it was the most quiet, populated place we had ever been. One of our next favorite spots was the road called the Denali Highway, and it is the old road that you used to have to use before they built the Parks Highway that Denali National Park is situated on. And the Denali Highway goes between Glen Allen to the east and Cantwell to the west, and it is a dirt road. I think 60-something miles long. We spent 2 nights on it. Just beautiful, remote, very little traffic. We saw pingos and eskers there, which was exciting. We didn't think we'd see those till we got closer to the Arctic. We saw bones, what appeared to be moose or caribou bones, like a big pile of bones. There were pristine lakes. There's only one little town, which was more of a hunting lodge than a town. And we got our first view of Denali the mountain from the Denali Highway. So it has a pretty special place in our hearts for just being able to pull over on the road and camp in the middle of all that beauty. And the bird life there was great too. Number 3 would have to be the small city of Palmer. We enjoyed both the town, mainly because of the connection to my parents, but the outdoor activities around Palmer are just awesome. We drove up to the town of Glacier View, which is where the Matanuska Glacier is, and we took a guided tour out onto the glacier, onto the Matanuska Glacier with the Micah Tours group. Super informative, so much fun. I would recommend it to anyone. You can, in a heartbeat. We also went on a hike up to Hatcher Pass, which wasn't too far outside of Palmer, and you had 360-degree views from the top. You could see the southwest end of the Talkeetna Mountains, and then to the south, looking down into Palmer, was a view of the Chugach Mountains, and that was just a beautiful hike. We saw people snowboarding and skiing up in the highest elevations in the shade where there was still snow on the ground. Definitely one of our favorite hikes for sure. Next would have to be the city of Seward that sits on Resurrection Bay, down at the bottom of the Kenai Peninsula, because of the Kenai Fjords National Park that you can't really access by vehicle. You can access it by plane or helicopter or boat. So we took a cruise, like an 8-hour cruise, out into the bay to see the wildlife, and it paid off beautifully. Seals and sea lions, whales. We saw whales, we saw puffins, we saw we saw doll porpoises that look like little orcas. It was just magnificent. And it was kind of cloudy and overcast that day, so again, we didn't really have the views, but it felt very, I think I said in the video, it felt very Misty Mountain, Tolkien-ish. It was kind of fun. And it was just a super fantastic opportunity to go out there, see what we wouldn't have been able to see if we hadn't gotten on a boat, and to see all that wildlife. Oh, and another glacier or two. So that was really, and we saw otters, and like otters are huge, who knew? So that was definitely worth it. Seward's a quirky little town, well worth a visit, but the real attraction there is the Kenai Fjords National Park. Number 4 would have to be Wrangell St. Elias National Park, including the McCarthy Road and the town of McCarthy. You take the McCarthy Road in, 65-mile dirt road. It used to be the old train tracks. We about, I don't know, maybe 25 miles in is that train trestle that 233 feet above the river there, and you could go down under the trestle and walk across that ironwork catwalk. Definitely a top experience. We took the road, that was also where we saw a mountain lion. We took the road all the way into McCarthy Base Camp, they call it, as far as you can drive, and then you camp there. About a half a mile away is the little town of McCarthy, and so we walked over to McCarthy a couple times and took the free bus out to, actually I take that back. So we walked over to McCarthy a couple of times, signed up to do a tour of the Kennecott Mill, the Kennecott Mines Mill. You can't access the mill without being on a tour. It's just a 100-year-old wooden building that you can't roam about freely in. That was quite a highlight. It's a 13-story tall mill that milled copper ore. Super cool. Then we hiked out to the Root Glacier and walked around on it just a little bit. I would say that McCarthy was the quirkiest, littlest town we went to. Everybody was super friendly. Everybody was super happy to see us. There's a fantastic restaurant there called The Potato. There are free-range dogs. Everybody's dog just wanders about. And I can't imagine not going to McCarthy and going into Wrangell St. Elias National Park. Would have to be the city of Valdez on the eastern side of the Kenai Peninsula. We weren't even really sure we were going to do Valdez, but I really kind of wanted to. So it was the last part of our Kenai Peninsula trip, that couple of weeks that we did. And when we drove into Valdez, it was rainy and foggy, And I kept reading the milepost saying, oh, well, this is, you know, Thompson Pass and Keystone Canyon. And we saw the couple of waterfalls, but that was it. We didn't really see the panorama vistas that were at the top of Keystone Pass. No, Thompson Pass. We really enjoyed Valdez, a fun little town with a pretty tragic history, thanks to the 1964 earthquake. But it was fun. We really enjoyed it. You can walk all over downtown. You can arrive and park. We camped downtown. But on the way out, the fog had lifted, the rain was gone, the sun was out, and driving up the Keystone Canyon and then across Thompson Pass, we just had no idea. And just unbelievable scenery. I know that we say that, or I've said that about every single place we've been, but it's true. Every place you go in Alaska is the ultimate in beauty, and every place is so very different. All the different mountains are a little bit different, and Valdez certainly, the drive-in and the city itself that's surrounded by mountains certainly delivers on a beautiful place to spend a few days. And number 7 would have to be Denali National Park. If the rest of the number 1 through 6, that's if you have kind of unlimited time. You're going to Alaska for the summer, or you're going to Alaska for the month. But if you're going to Alaska for a week or 2 weeks, you don't want to miss Denali. That would have to be the number 1 thing to do during a short visit. Denali, of course, make your reservations plenty of months in advance. We camped as far as you could drive in at the Teklanika River Campground, which was a beautiful campground. We rode the bus, because you've got to ride the bus to get anywhere. We rode the bus a couple times to Polychrome Pass. The interesting thing about Denali is that there are no hiking trails. There are maybe 2 hiking trails, and the rest of the time you're just off bushwhacking on your own. We hiked in the Cathedral Mountain area across the tundra, next to this raging snow-fed, glacier-fed creek. No, that would have been snow-fed. Just tried hiking up the side of this mountain that didn't look too bad till we got about 3/4 of the way up, and it was like, holy cow, this is straight up and down. We saw a grizzly bear. We saw caribou. We saw mountain goats. We saw mountain sheep. It was just the most wonderful week that we spent. And while only 30% of the people who get to Denali see the mountain, of the 7 days we're there, she was out 5 times. I think we got to see her so much because we did more than a quick ride on the bus in and a quick ride on the bus out. And even though half the road was closed because of the collapse of the road at Polychrome Pass, I don't think that affected our stay in Denali at all. We did as much, if not more, than if the rest of that road had been open, because just the mile 29 where the campground was to mile 45 where the road was closed was a long bus ride. So I'm not sure how many times I am sure how many times we would have ridden the bus out to like mile 90, I think it is. We would have done it once, because it's just, who wants to be in Denali National Park in Alaska and be stuck on a bus for 8 hours? So I don't feel like our trip was any diminished because of the road closure. And so while those are 7 things that we think you should do, there is so much more. I mean, we didn't talk about Fairbanks. We really enjoyed Fairbanks. It felt like what someone said old Alaska felt like. We enjoyed that. We camped out of the city right there. We went in a number of times, saw a baseball game. We went to Homer. We just did so much that you can't say these were our favorite things, because the entire once-in-a-lifetime trip was our favorite thing. And we would do it again in a heartbeat if it wasn't so far away. So if you enjoyed this, give us a like, subscribe if you hadn't, and thanks so much. And until next time, fare thee well, Nomies.